All right, thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. Just wanted to let you know that we are keeping our eyes on this press conference expected to begin at any moment now. This is out of Spalding County, where officials are expected to announce some child abuse charges. Not a lot of details being released at this time, but what we at Atlanta News First have done is we've looked through court documents, arrest warrants, for the time period that was named by Spalding County officials, May 12th. And what we found, if you want to read this in more detail, go on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. What we found is that this Griffin couple was arrested
audio
and
check,
charged
audio check. Everybody
on
good? Everybody good?
May 12th for child abuse, essentially. Actually, it's Tyler and Krista Schindler, who you see in those images on our website. They've been arrested in connection to the abuse and murder of their own child, apparently, is what it seems, and were taken into custody last Friday. The charges filed against them include murder, cruelty to children, false imprisonment, battery, several other charges. But looking back here live in Spalding County, we are expecting this press conference to begin at any moment now.
I would just do that little.
Officials there expected to just deliver their remarks, make an announcement regarding charges filed in this case.
¿Está bien? ¿Sí? ¿Eso está bien? Put it on, I'll give you a sound, a mic check.
So, that's some crew members just kind of adjusting the microphones and so forth as officials prepare to deliver their remarks on these child abuse charges. And what we are anticipating, again, just having looked through the arrest warrants and the court documents, we do know that this couple was charged on May 12th with cruelty to children, false imprisonment, battery, murder, among the most egregious of the charges, and really some disturbing detail shared in these warrants, which again you can view on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. And also, if you haven't yet downloaded our app, Atlanta News First Plus app, just go ahead and do that. And that's a good way to just kind of keep you up to date when there is breaking news. You can get alerts sent to your phone however you want to set that up, but that's a way that we're able to just kind of keep up to date with the latest and keep our viewers up to date with the latest. But really disturbing information that is revealed in these arrest warrants. The warrants allege that this couple intentionally caused visible physical injuries to the 10-year-old victim and withheld medical attention and even food. And the warrants allege that they instead locked the child up alone in his room for extended periods of time and did so on multiple occasions. That the warrants say that they actually would lock him in his room with not only any access to food, but no access to light, no access to hot or warm running water, no outside view whatsoever. No toilet paper, no electronic interaction, no human interaction, no adult supervision, and no way out. So essentially locked in with no way out, and none of the essentials. Okay, it looks like there's. Let's go ahead and listen in. Looks like some activity there at Spalding County.
All right. My name is Investigator Powell. I work for the City of Griffin Police Department. I'm the Public Information Officer. We appreciate everyone coming today and your interest in this matter. We wanted to have a press conference in order to get everything clear and concise released at the same time and give a complete news release. The reason the charges appeared in reference to this with the murder is a computer autofill glitch. Murder was never charged. There was just criminal attempt to do so. That being said, I'm going to bring up my partner to speak on the case.
Hey there, I'm Investigator Spears. I'm with the City Griffin Police Department. I'm lead investigator on this case. I'm gonna give you a little bit of information that I have. This case still is active and ongoing, so information is limited. On May 12th, morning hours, officers responded to the 1700 block of Westminster Circle in reference to a lost child. The call came from neighbors in the area who noticed the very small child walking down the street. They made contact with the child. He stated he was walking to the store to get some food. The neighbors asked him if he was okay, and he stated that he was hungry. Officers arrived and spoke to the child. The child asked the officers to please not make him go back. Officers noted that the child seemed very small, very thin. His skin was discolored. So the child was then transported to local hospital where he was being treated and is being treated for malnutrition and a very low heart rate. The child was discovered to be 10 years old, and at the time he was taken to the hospital, he only weighed 36 pounds. Like I said, this is really early in this case. The investigation is active and ongoing. However, I can let you know that the parents, Tyler and Krista Shinley, have been arrested and have been charged with the following charges: attempted murder in the second, or homicide in the second degree, attempted malice murder, cruelty to children in the first degree, cruelty to children in the second degree, cruelty to children in the third degree, battery, simple battery, and false imprisonment. This is our district attorney, Marie Broder.
Thank you, Investigator Spears. Good afternoon. I understand, and was briefly addressed at the beginning, that there was some confusion as to the charges because of how they were listed on the sheriff's website. It's an interesting note that in the state of Georgia, we don't have attempted murder under that statute. You have to charge the criminal attempt to commit a felony, that felony being murder. And I believe the intention is to release the warrants to you so you can see how that is charged. The child is still alive. When he reported to the hospital, as was briefly mentioned, his heart rate was extremely low. He was extremely malnourished, and they had to stabilize him here at Spalding. He has then been transferred to another hospital where he is receiving treatment. As you all know, and being a child prosecutor for most of my career, child abuse cases are record heavy and record intensive. We have requested everything that we can. We have obviously records we need to retrieve from the hospital. We have records that we need to retrieve from defects if there are any. We have cell phones that have to be looked into. So we are actively investigating this case, and we are getting all the information that we can. So what we have right now is limited, but I can tell you that the child is stable as of now.
Is the child the intended murder victim?
Yes. The state alleges in the warrants, and it is my office's decision to move forward on the criminal attempt for malice murder for starvation. The child was being starved to death is what we will argue.
How long do you believe the child was deprived of food?
The child has not even been interviewed yet to get a firm timeline, to just be candid, so I don't want to go into that specific. But when he is released, we will have a full forensic interview with him, and we'll be able to know more about those details.
Ms. Broder, can you say how the child managed to get away?
The child somehow escaped, and he was walking the street trying to get to Kroger to get food when some individuals that lived in the area found him, and very good people that they are, brought him in and got him some water and some crackers and reported it to police, and we're very thankful to them. What I will say is this case is disturbing. It's heartbreaking. I have tried many child abuse cases in my career, and this child was simply put being starved to death. And it is tragic. To give you some context, I have a 9-year-old and she currently weighs 76 pounds. This 10-year-old little boy weighed 36.
Do you believe the doors were locked?
Hang on, y'all, I'm so sorry. Let me go with you first, and then Ms. Matthews, I'll go to you. And then Ms. Gunnels to you.
Do you believe the doors were locked, or how was the child being kept in the home?
We do have evidence of confinement, but I don't want to go into too many details about that. But there is evidence to support the idea that the child was confined, yes. And I believe there is a warrant for false imprisonment. That would give you a little bit more detail on that. Yes, ma'am.
I've received information that the Shinleys left this child home alone while they vacationed to include trips to Disney and a cruise. Can you confirm that report?
I cannot confirm that. I have not listened to their interviews yet, so that's not something that I can confirm.
Was the child left home alone with an older sibling after the tornado?
I can't confirm that yet. I'm sorry, Ms. Matthews, I cannot. I wasn't present for the interviews, and I haven't listened to them yet.
How many children did they have?
There are multiple children in the home. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna ask that, if there are multiple children in the home.
I can't give any obvious detail about the children. Actually, their DFACS is working with them now, so I honestly don't know the status. But they are also in line to be interviewed.
Can you confirm the number of children?
There were 5,
5.
including the main victim.
Are these children, I know on the warrant it doesn't say a son, so were these foster kids, were these their kids? I know you can't give a lot, but I mean, was this 10-year-old a child?
No, we can't comment on that at this time. It would go into protected records, and I can't comment on that at this time.
Is there a child missing, I'm being told, a 14-year-old that hadn't been seen?
I'm not sure about that, honestly. I know that we are still looking into the family history, extensively looking into the family history, and I know that the investigators have been working on identifying potentially some other children, but I don't know enough to comment about that at this time.
Is there any
Yes, sir.
defects history there?
We are looking into that. Obviously, we would have to request those records.
What is the help of the other children that are in the home now?
I can't comment on their health.
Are the parents foster parents? Are they foster?
No, they're not. I can tell you they're not foster parents, no. What did you ask me? I'm sorry.
What is the condition of the little boy's name?
He's stable. He's stable, but he's still receiving medical treatment in a hospital.
And just go back to you being a mom,
I don't know. I don't believe so.
just go back to you being a mom, I mean, how hard is this case knowing that, you know, this kid for 3 or 4 years was getting abused like this under everybody's noses? I mean, obviously you wouldn't know, but I mean, to know this kid was going through this for that long, I mean, to be that little when he's found.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, as a mother, I can't comprehend it, but as a human being, it breaks your heart. We aren't releasing any photos of this child for obvious reasons, but I will tell you the photos are absolutely horrible. And anyone with a human heart that looks at them should be shaken to their core. I certainly was.
I know starvation's bad enough, but were they physically beating the child as well?
I don't have the medical records yet. That's something that we're waiting. We don't have that charged because we're waiting on medical records to
Do
determine that.
you believe food was withheld from the other children, or why this particular boy?
We have not been able to interview the other children yet, so we don't know. But as of now, no other charges are, the parents aren't facing any other charges for any withholding of food from the other children right now.
Can you
Yeah,
speak more to
how
the
long- I'm sorry.
Can you just speak more to the conditions of how this child was being kept? Was deprived of water or light or?
That would get into records that we would be having to protect at this time, so I'm not going to go into any more detail about that. I can just tell you he was confined.
What condition was the home in?
I mean, the home itself was okay. I mean, but I don't want to get into too much detail about that. But the home itself was okay, but there's a lot more to that will come out as the case unfolds.
Well, I'm wondering, is there like food rationing, locks on the cabinets, anything like that?
And I know y'all are wanting answers to these questions, but understand that not only is my role as district attorney, but because this is a case involving child abuse, there's just very little talking about the specifics that I can give you.
Have there been any calls out to this house before?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Can you answer where they were arrested, the parents?
Let me turn it over to Investigator Spears. I don't know the answer to that question.
Both parents the father voluntarily came to the police department to talk to us once we had gotten notified of this incident. He was arrested and taken into custody at the police department. And the mother was transported as well to the police department. Once we interviewed her, she was arrested and taken into custody from the police department.
And when was that? When was that?
May the 12th, on Friday.
The same day?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of your investigation, are you looking into see how this even was allowed to happen? Were people not checking on this? I mean, it's hard to imagine how this could continue this long and nobody came forward.
I agree with you. We're looking into that, interviewing neighbors, that kind of thing, trying to find how that happened.
I mean, were they being schooled in any kind of way?
The children were homeschooled.
What was the length of time of confinement?
We're not sure at this time.
We've heard this reporter say this was 3 or 4 years. Is that what you're going with?
I'm not sure at this time. I can't answer that.
And part of, I'll stand with her on this, part of it is because we still have to forensically interview these children to narrow down the timeline. So understand that the child has been in a hospital, so we haven't been able to forensically interview him yet. As soon as we do, we'll be able to answer more of the timeline.
Have the parents made any statements to explain what this is all about?
We have spoken to the parents. We have interviewed them, but I can't discuss what they've disclosed at this time.
But this is their 10-year-old son.
This is their child. Yes, ma'am.
Any reason why this particular child was being starved to death?
We're trying to figure that out. We're not sure at this time.
Did the quarantine relative to the pandemic help these parents to conceal this child?
That was a statement that was provided to us. That's a possibility. Yes, ma'am.
So what's next? Like, you'll gather records from medical records, everything there, and then what's next?
We'll do forensic interviews on all children, and then once we have those, further contact with schools, possibly that the children had previously attended before homeschool, neighbors, other family members, just trying to reach out and get a broad dynamic of how this family was, and when maybe a change was seen, possibly.
Can you give us a range on the children's ages, the youngest and the oldest?
No, ma'am, I can't.
But there were some younger than this 10-year-old.
Yes.
Is there potential for more victims that you guys might not know about out there with this family's history without giving too much away? I mean, is there?
I feel it could be possible, but I can't say either way.
Ms. Broder, you know when they'll make a first court appearance?
They had one yesterday, I believe. And then we would expect to have a bond hearing probably in the next upcoming weeks. And to answer somebody asked a question, I'm sorry, I can't recall who it was, about what's next. A lot of paper for these investigators, a lot of work, a lot of interviews. In child abuse cases, we need pediatric records, we need school records, we need defects records, we need interviews with everybody that had any contact with this child, if there are other people that had contact with him. And they are right now doing all of that work. And I appreciate them for what they have done. It is my true belief that had he not gotten out of the home, that this case would be a very different one.
The other children, are they in the custody of the state at this point?
I do not know.
Who's watching them, I guess?
And that's a defects matter, so I don't know. I don't know.
How does this work with a kid this bad? I mean, with this abuse, do you guys have some agent that comes in that specializes in interviewing this child? I mean, not saying you guys can't, but I know it's probably unique for you guys.
Sure. Well, anytime there's an allegation of child abuse, it's a good question. We reach out to a facility that has trained people that interview children of trauma, that be physical trauma, emotional trauma, or sexual abuse. And those forensic interviewers are specifically trained for this very thing. And so that's who we'll use in this case as well.
Do you think this child was on a 5th grade level, or cognitively was he behind as well?
I don't know. So that'll be something hopefully we'll find in the records that we've requested. All right. Thank you all for your interest. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I think that's all we have.
All right, so you've been listening to that live update from the district attorney there in Spalding County, along with the City of Griffin Police Department and some other officials talking about these child abuse charges just being announced. And this is the top story on our website right now. I want to encourage you to check in here to get the details. But what we've learned here is that this Griffin couple Their names are Krista and Tyler Shinley. They have now been charged with really a slew of offenses connected to the mistreatment, the abuse of their 10-year-old boy. So the charges are attempted homicide of two different types, cruelty to children in the second and third degree, false imprisonment, battery, simple battery, among other things. And you heard some really, really disturbing details there, especially, from the district attorney, just kind of explaining that how this whole thing was uncovered, that essentially this young boy was found wandering the streets, and, through investigation, authorities were able to piece together, that this boy, allegedly had been abused and neglected, and in the district attorney's words, quote, was being starved to death. This young 10-year-old was taken to a nearby hospital to be treated for malnutrition along with a low heart rate. Apparently was just 36 pounds. 36 pounds, a 10-year-old boy, 36 pounds. And you heard the district attorney becoming very emotional, comparing the weight of the size of that child to her own child. I can't remember if she said what the weight of a normal child was, but grossly underweight, grossly malnourished. This is not a normal condition whatsoever. That the child was small and thin, didn't want to go back home. And then when we started to kind of look through the arrest warrants, what we learned from the arrest warrants, what we also heard echoed during this news conference a short time ago, that this child had visible physical injuries, which authorities are alleging were caused by these parents, and that these parents then went on to withhold medical attention and withhold food, and instead locked the child up alone in his room for extended periods of time, and did that on multiple occasions, where they didn't give him food, they didn't give him any access to light. He had no warm running water, no outside view of the world, no toilet paper, no electronic interaction, no human interaction, no adult supervision, and no way out. Absolutely, absolutely horrific. And you heard the district attorney talk about how it personally disturbed her. I've seen some of the comments on Facebook, and it truly is, from our own viewers, truly is just a heartbreaking case. Thank goodness, this child is stable in the hospital according to authorities, and is receiving treatment. But it's still a developing story. We're going to continue to follow all the breaking details. You heard the district attorney say, what's next? Well, a lot of paper. There's an extensive legal process that has to kind of play its course here. But the child, according to the district attorney, was being starved to death. Thank goodness is now in the hospital and getting the treatment that he needs. But we're going to keep following all the latest on this breaking story right here on Atlanta News First Plus. And we just encourage you as well to download our app. And that'll keep you up to date with all the latest on this story and any breaking stories that may impact you as well. Okay, thank you so much for being with us.